Question yourself, who is facing these problems? The false I is facing all these problems. The false I is not real but seems so. Therefore inquire about this false I. Currently, you are under the impression that the false I is true. At least, doubt that false I. When you start doubting it, it reaches its source.
If your devotion is true, offer this false I to God.
Everybody is interested to know God, but before that, try to understand who wants to know God. Later you can try to know who God is.
The body, honor, and wealth are as transient as the bubble in an ocean. Are you dependent upon things that seem green today but wither away tomorrow? The happiness dependent upon external things is equivalent to bubbles. It is transient. Either the bubbles vanish when you are alive, or the bubble called the body expires even if those temporary bubbles continue to exist. How long will you depend upon them for your happiness?
How can you bestow peace and bliss upon your fellow beings when you are not blissful and peaceful? The only mistake is that you all don't try to reform yourself but try to reform others. It is a kind of delusion. Whom can you reform with your ego? How can you serve the world when you are 100% selfish?
Rather than turning your mind towards liberation, why don't you get rid of the ego? Then liberation will be achieved here and now. Not somewhere and sometime, but here and now.
Ensure that the death dies. At the time of the body's death, who feels that they are subject to death? It is the I that identifies itself with the body. If that I dies before the body's death, then death dies. Crucify the ego to become a jnani.
Even if you contemplate the non-self for ages together, you will never become that. It is only due to the force of habits that you think about the non-self. Instead, listen to, contemplate, and meditate upon the self. You will then become the self.
This entire creation depends upon a single pillar called the I thought. You have had identification with this I since several births. Hence you are unable to doubt your identification with it. You are presuming this false I to be 100% true. A guru is needed to reveal its falsehood. Once its deception is understood, you will start shaking it.
There needs to be someone to experience the prarabdha or destiny. That is, a doer must exist. You presume that the doer exists. If you understand that the doer does not exist in reality, then there is no more destiny to be experienced.
Lord Krishna said in the Gita, "Offer me either a flower or a fruit or even some water." Can we consider this as an offering? No. Giving up the ego alone can be termed renunciation in its true sense.
If you cannot give up desire, anger, and fear, sorrow is inevitable in this birth and the forthcoming births. However, they are not three different attributes but one only. It is desire alone that brings in anger and fear. If the desire is given up, there is no question of anger and fear.
The scriptures declare that destiny is compelling and most powerful. But destiny is equivalent to a blade of grass. To what is destiny related? It is for the body. If you surrender yourselves to God, where is the scope of destiny? When you offer your mind at the feet of God, what can the body-related destiny do to you?
You presume that you exist within the body, the world outside the body, and God exists elsewhere. As long as these three exist, the departure from and re-arrival back into this world becomes inevitable. The God living somewhere, the visible world, and the I with which you identify yourselves should become the same. Only that represents the ultimate state. Only then it becomes your last birth.
Bhakti is the mother of jnana. Without devotion, one cannot attain knowledge. Suppose you don't have devotion towards God and lack faith in Him. The secret burdens in the heart cannot be driven out merely by the spiritual practices done using intellect.
Every name and form is the cause of sorrow. All bodies are but shadows.
Akshara implies the imperishable one. Akshara Manamala is the one that unites us with the Akshara.
If you get a wall built, the wall doesn't pay wages to the workers. It is you who pay the wages. Similarly, karma or action is gross or inanimate. It cannot yield any fruit of action. It is the Karta or God who bestows the fruit of action. So, God is called Karma Phala Datta, or the bestower of the fruit of actions. You may appear to perform actions. God decides how, what, and when the result should come. God is not somewhere far away. He dwells within the heart as the indweller.
Don't cry for the deceased one. The one who cries for them within you, or the crier, is still there. Instead, cry that the crier is not still dead. If he dies, then whatever is left is liberation alone.
Despite being so near, you still search for the self somewhere else. If you extrovert the mind and search for the self somewhere outside, even an innumerable birth time frame is a waste of time. If you develop the requisite insight and introversion of the mind, all the enquiry and effort made inside to experience the self within will never go to waste.
Whatever is bound to happen will happen. Whatever is not bound to happen will not happen. It is certain. Therefore, it is better to remain still.
Every thought is sorrowful. Be still and rise to the level of mindlessness. Be still and know the truth within the heart.
Whoever comes here will not go back empty-handed. The atheists will become theists. The theists get transformed into devotees, and the devotees become jnanis.
Ignorance is more difficult to endure than poverty.
Arunachala alone exists. There are no others. All this is his trap. All this is his magic. All this is not true but seems to be true.